Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio with Nancy and Lisa. Every third Thursday, we get to chat with Lea Brovedani. She is known as the Trust Architect. She's a speaker, a workshop facilitator on trust, and she's recognized as a top thought leader on trust by the organization Trust Across America. And she's also the author of 2 books, and she's part of other books too. But check these out. Trust Me, Restore Belief and Confidence in an Uncertain World, and Trusted, Secret Lessons from an Inspired Leader. You can learn all about it. Just go to thetrustarchitect.biz. Like I said, Lea is here every third Thursday, so you can also read her articles and catch up on previous podcasts on blendradioandtv.com. Today's show, we're talking about building a legacy of trust in a business and as a business leader. And this is the second part of last month's interview. We talked about living a life that leaves a legacy of trust. But then what about the professional side? What about your career, being a leader? And what about if you're a business owner and in management? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And Lea's article about that is on blendradioandtv.com. Whew, mouthful. So welcome back, Lea.
Thank you. And since I was here last time, as you both know, I have a new puppy. Bella Scotia is a standard poodle, and she's 13 weeks old, and sometimes she's called Halabella or other names that I won't mention on the radio. But you know, the reason I bring her up is that I see the same things playing out leading my new puppy as I see leaders and what they have to do. So she's doing really well. She's already, after only having her for a week, she sleeps through the night and she's not making a mess during the night. And part of that is we're very consistent. And so just like leaders have to be consistent. You can't say everything's okay one day and things aren't okay the next day, which is as confusing for staff as it is for a new puppy. I'm not something. And not punishing them for things, you know, and here's what happens as a leader, just like it happens with my puppy. If I punish them every time a mistake is made, then they just hide it. And so if you punish your puppy for peeing in a house, then what they do is they still, if they have to go, but they hide it from you. And there's nothing worse than finding 3-day-old pee in a corner. Same thing with leaders. You don't want to have
they also pee in a corner.
Yeah, you don't want your staff hiding mistakes, so it becomes a smelly mess later. That's just such a good metaphor.
I know, really. But you know, also when you think about it, you know, where we are, you know, we pet sit as we travel the country, and right now we're taking care of two labs that are awesome, but one is, you know, stick crazy, and he, you know, and there's another dog wants to jump out into the front yard and play. And the lady, the pet parent says, listen, if she does bolt, what she did yesterday, because she saw another dog, she's like, oh, I want to go play next door. And she does. And this happens because they are used to playing in the front yard together. So it's normal. She says, if they run and don't come home and they come home, I do not yell or punish them. I give them rewards and treats for coming home so that they know, come home, don't be nervous, come home. So then it's like, oh, yippee-yay. And as soon as I held up a treat, not the treat, a stick, well, then Hazel's like, I'm coming home. She's got a stick, let's play. So, and then gave her a treat.
She's a stubborn little doggy.
But there's something about, not punishing each time, because then we talk about a legacy. Do you want to be left as the business owner or business leader who just like punished everybody? Eventually, you're not going to even have a staff at that point, in fact.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, there's the whole thing. There's an exercise that I've done when I've done leadership conferences, and it's around trust, and it's reward and punishment. And it's that, do you remember the game where if you're getting closer, you say hot potato, cold potato, that type of thing? Well, I've done the exercise where I've had 3 people leave the room and had just something simple. So it could be something as simple as picking up a cup and putting it on the stage. And if you only praise people, you'll get a lot of wonderful action, but you're not going to get what you want. So I've had people who've come in, and as soon as they come in, everybody cheers everything they do. Well, pretty soon they're tap dancing or singing a song and everybody's cheering, but that's not what you wanted them to do.
Yeah.
The second one, everything they do, they're booed. And pretty soon you've just got this really angry person who's, you know, we've had people who have said, "You guys suck," and started yelling. And the third time, if they're going towards the stage, you cheer. And if they're going away, you boo. And I've had it as fast as 15 seconds, had someone do the task that you wanted them to do. So with leadership, if you want to leave a legacy, there's things that you can do. Don't always punish, don't always reward. Make sure that you're rewarding the behavior that you want. And you know, they're not puppies. They're people. You can have a conversation with them. So it's at a lot higher level.
Yeah.
Obviously. But make sure that like your legacy is helping coach them to excellence. And you know, honestly, if you want to think back, just take like 10 seconds to think about the best leader you've ever worked for. I would say that you would always say, or I'd be surprised if you didn't, I knew I could trust them.
You know, one thing that I see in companies, at least the companies that I used to work for, was they would put you in a position that you weren't fully trained for. And you'd say, well, I really don't know about this side of running this office. I know about this side because I scaled up on that side, but I don't know about this side. And I go, oh, we'll get to that later. And I'm like, oh, okay. But they never got to later. And so you, on one side of the office is happy, the other side of the office is not that happy because they know that you don't know. And how can you lead if you don't know as much as the people you're leading?
Yeah.
You know, so it went beyond like book knowledge to character knowledge and people. So I learned really fast within like the first day. I had to go to the opposite side and say, I don't know about this. Can you help me? Can you show me about this? I want to know. And then tell me the good parts and the bad parts, what you think should change and what you like. And it took me 3 days. And then the top management was like, what the heck are you doing? You're wasting your time. I'm like, I don't think I am, you know, because now I know more than what you've taught me. And I see a ton of mistakes. And so then I go back to the side I did know and do the same exercise. So nobody felt, you know, favoritism or left out and all that stuff, like the playground in school. And I put up a report together. And when I sent the report in, the first guy who looked at it said, nobody asked you for this report. I hope you don't expect to be paid for it. That sounds like words. The next group of people said, oh, this is awesome because yes, we could change this. We can't change this yet, but we can work on it. We can change this over here. And then the two sides could, like it was the sales department and the admin department hated each other. We could get
as usual.
Yeah, because it's the, I almost wanted to say the way they're raised. It's the how an office sometimes works depending on the management. If you divide up, these are the money makers, and these are your secretaries kind of attitude,
That's
yes, they
gross.
hate each other. Well, then they hate each other. If you say these are the people who bring in the funds, and these are the people who back you up and make the systems work so you can, now you got something. But it took me, oh gosh, 2 years to get that office straightened out. 2 whole years of learning myself because I didn't know, and to learning how to say things in the right way to not get shot down every time I talk to. So I'm like, oh, it's this person, I gotta say it this way. It's this person over here, I gotta say it that way. But it was exhausting. And I wish there was a way that you could say something to everyone without it being like that.
Well, now it's really worse in this world. You can't say anything. I think there's a show coming up when I think I was politically incorrect. Shocking. But yeah, Lee, what about this? I mean, because that is kind of an interesting thing, because you have that in offices where there's different departments doing different things, but you need all the departments to work cohesively.
Yeah, you
and
do.
when you come to a legacy, how everybody is connected, and as a leader, you've got to connect them to make it work.
You
It
know,
kind of
and
goes
I
back.
think there's, there's 3 parts to it. The first is the onboarding part, where when you are starting something and getting people together and saying, I want to find out more about you and how you work, and I want to tell you how I work. Now, if I ask you a lot of questions, it's not because, and I've talked to leaders who have done this. They've actually said to their staff, I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions, not because I don't trust you, because I know you know how to do the business, but I'm curious and I need to understand it as well. So never feel like I'm checking up on you. So they had to preface that because they had experienced, you know, that when they would question people, they felt like they were not being trusted, or that they were second guessing, or they were checking up on them. So if you let them know, this is why I'm doing it. And then secondly, I am going to communicate in this way so that they know it. And having a conversation with all of them and saying, how do you like to be told something? Do you want to know beforehand? You know, because everybody's different. If you've got a large staff, that's problematic. Because if you've got, you know, I've managed offices where I had 140 people. And you try and get a bit of an overview of what the people are like. But honestly, with the staff, and they were coming and going, I didn't know each one of them personally. What you hoped, and what I hoped with the staff that I had, is that people would say, if she has a problem with you, she'll come to you directly. Yeah, don't worry about that. So you want to have a bit of a viral, you know, right now with all this stuff that's happening, social media, and I'm not the one who came up with this, is anything but social.
Right.
But what you can do is make sure that if you're communicating, there's consistency. And so people know what to expect, good, bad, or indifferent, they know what to expect.
I think consistency is key. Is that so? That would be part of leaving a legacy, is being consistent in your behavior, unless you're being an idiot. Then you don't want to be consistent.
Beforehand, what is, absolutely. Decide what is the legacy you want to leave. You know, most people don't take the moment to say, okay, when I leave this, what do I want people to say about me? And that's part of your reputation, but your reputation is going to help you with your legacy.
And your business. I mean, if you start a small business, you know, majority, you know, there's the small home-based, smaller businesses, solo entrepreneurs and everything. But even then they use, you know, virtual assistants, and there's other people, whether you're working with employees or contractors, it's still a legacy that what did your company do? And do you want your company to be remembered as like that was a terrible restaurant, I'm glad the guy's dead? Or do you remember, well, I'm just being straight up. I mean, that's my legacy, is I'm consistently straight up and say things I shouldn't. But no, or do you want to remember, man, that was the best restaurant ever? And then, that means somebody, if that person, say it was one owner and a few staff, I actually have a really good example now that I'm talking about that. There's a lady we interviewed on one of the destinations, this amazing Portuguese bakery. And she was very shy, but once she realized Nancy and I were interested in her background, interested in her baked goods, interested in she came from the Azores. And she told us her immigrant story of coming to this country, living in New York, meeting her husband, who turned out to be from an island across from her. They didn't know, but they met here. And, here's this romance. Then they moved to where they were in Central California, opened this little bakery. And Central California has a huge Portuguese population that came in and do a lot of the agriculture. And we've got a lot of Portuguese friends there too. And so one took us there, and the soccer group gets together and has coffee in the morning there and organizes their games and their fundraising. And so it's very much a neighborhood little coffee shop bakery. And then she gave us lessons on Portuguese coffee versus American. And no, now you need to taste this. And next thing you know, like, we're walking out of there with like a carload of deliciousness. But she wasn't like someone who wanted to be interviewed or anything. But then I said, oh, come on,
she's very shy. She's very shy.
So she let me record an interview with her. We went out in the parking lot, and she did this interview telling their story, talking about the heritage, talking about this biscuit versus that. And it was one of those, like Anthony Bourdain would have been proud of this one. He would have, there's certain interviews we go, that was a Bourdain. And that would have been, he would have liked her. Well, it wasn't even 6 months later, she passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucked. It sucked because she was just a vibrant soul, but she was going through health problems. And so, and it was, she had created this community gathering spot. So it wasn't just, and her authenticity of Portuguese goods. And she had a little store too. So we went through like, this is Portuguese soda. This is the, so it
like
was
walking into Cheers.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
On the TV program is like, hey,
but she was
like,
this one woman.
Everybody.
Yeah,
cool.
Everybody knew each other. Everybody, and it was this cornerstone for the community to gather, especially for the Portuguese community, but for everyone, right? And so, and very family oriented. The family just was devastated.
That was big.
And so I featured her interview and sent it off to our friend Dawnette. And I swear to God, to this day, it's still one of the most highest listened to interviews. And because of her legacy, it wasn't very long. Everybody thought the whole thing is done. It's over with her. Because of her legacy, of what she created, of just being this warm, kind human being, it wasn't even about becoming really rich. That wasn't who she was. It was, yeah, we want to survive, pay our bills, make a living, go on a vacation once in a while. Because of that, someone came in, and next thing you know, within 6 months of her passing, I'm actually going to say 3 months, that cafe opened up again with a new owner, and the tradition gets to continue on. Now, if she was not her, if she was not Marie, that could have just been, oh yeah, there was a nice bakery, the woman died, it closed. That's it. But if it went beyond her product, it was about her and the way she treated people and made them feel
legacy
comfy.
She left.
Yeah. So that's when I talk about the restaurant. That was a good, actually. Yeah, she was awesome. And I still feel sad.
Good legacy. That's a good legacy to have.
Yeah, sweet lady. I'll send you the podcast later.
Yeah. And when you think of legacy, I always think of a positive legacy. And then I think of the worst person I ever worked for. And he was a bully. And so his legacy, his building, and this is when I lived in Nova Scotia, and I went by to see if the business was still going, and not a surprise, it wasn't. He had gone bankrupt. And part of it was that I believe that the reputation that he had as being a bully and not treating his staff very well and taking advantage of them eventually trickled down to his business as well. So he couldn't sustain having good employees, and his reputation was that of a bully. And, not a surprise, it didn't translate into good business practices. And there was a lot of stories that got out that made him look pretty awful as from an ethics point of view. And all it came down to, if I would have said, what is the legacy you want to leave? He would have talked about having the successful business to leave for his kids and everything. In order to do that, you really have to give some thought into, if this is the legacy I want to leave, how do I have to walk through this world? How do I have to have business practices? How do I have to treat my staff in order to have the legacy that I want?
Yeah.
So, your reputation is what people are saying about you behind your back. And you do want to know that that has an impact on your legacy.
Yeah.
And I would bet that what people are saying, they would say, Lisa's a straight shooter. She's kind, but she tells people exactly what she thinks. And if she doesn't agree, you never have to guess. She'll go, oh,
I get that from Nancy.
Really?
It was a donation from her.
Yeah, and Nancy, when I think of you, I think of this adventurous person who was brave enough to take a small toddler across the ocean and has this enormous talent. So for those of you who don't know about Nancy, she's a fabulous artist, and she has all kinds of different businesses that she has started, and it just goes on and on. So I don't know if that's the legacy that you want to leave, but that is part of your legacy. And it's because of what you have done. And Lisa, the two of you together have this very successful business, and look at how you've had an impact on people across the country.
Look at you. You've got an impact. I mean, your legacy, you've helped companies, individuals, with what you do. And now you're helping people go to their next stage of life too, as a soul journey doula. I think that's like the epitome of trust, is to trust someone for your last journey, and knowing, because you don't have a redo on that one. Oh, maybe you do. I hope so. I hope I get to come. Well, I don't know. I want to be a ghost, but but there's that, I think that is.
You could work for the White House.
Oh boy, don't start that. But there's something with that in like what you're doing with your books. Like, how many people know you from your books that you don't know you? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like once we used to do our band rehearsal at this one musician's house.
Oh gosh.
And he lived off of a highway, but you could barely see that his house, it was up over hill. So you could, after rehearsal, go out and look down and go, look at all those cars. And, he was a little whacked up, but he would go,
really?
There's so many people coming by my house every single day, and I don't even know them, and they don't know me, but they come by every day. I'm like, I know, but anyway, it was band stories are weird, but that's the same thing as having a book out there. How many people, you've got 2 books, have resonated and been changed, and the books will live on forever, get passed down to other people,
and they'll still be finding typos, even though I've gone through them 1,000 times.
And if they find the typos, then they're just being anal. Gosh. I'm just saying.
But it's interesting, because when you find a couple of typos, then you're like, oh, on the one hand, that makes the person human. On the other hand, it's like, well, her editors suck. Kind of depending on what you think the book industry is like, and what it's like at your time,
Honestly, before a book is put into print. I mean, I've gone through it, without a word of a lie, over 100 times. And then I've had friends who've gone through it a number of times. And then I've had professional like I've had the professionals go through it and check for grammar and typos, and then an editor. So it goes through like so many steps. And then and I have this eye for finding mistakes. And so I'll read my books again and I'll find a mistake that has nothing.
Well, you should be with the magazine and it's out and you're like, damn, and
I know.
it's
gosh,
so,
it
and
happens all the-
sometimes it's the most blatant thing, but our minds actually correct things. And
Yeah.
so
when
we
you're
go
in
through
a
a
hurry, it
magazine,
does. Mhm.
we proofread.
Mm.
I'll proofread, things will go out on a podcast. And then I'm like, oh crap, that word was spelt wrong. And maybe it became a different word that you didn't want. Uh-oh.
Mhm.
Like,
That
the word
happened.
annual can become anal very quickly, or,
Yeah.
or annul.
And then so you can
and
be
we've
anal
done-
about finding annual,
Well,
Mm.
there was a festival once in the magazine, Annual
Oh,
Hog Fest, HAWG. It was a motorcycle, and
Oh,
somehow
that was
it got
so
printed
funny.
Anal Hog Fest in our magazine. So this is what happens on our shows, but I know Lee doesn't mind if we're honest. But
No.
this went out, and there's a side of me that when I
But
know
you know
Nancy
what?
knew we had to correct that, I think she just put it out there for fun
It
because
wasn't far
she
from the
was known.
truth.
You were so known for always hiding something in a publication. There's always, like when she makes videos and stuff, something weird will crop up. So there's Nancy's legacy of you'll
Yeah.
find something that you're not supposed to see. Disney artists did the same thing. A lot of Disney art years ago, here's the fairy tales and whatever, we'll have some hidden phallic thingy in there. Anyway,
Right.
yeah.
Oh, now I'm going to be
Well,
looking for it. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
trained by Disney.
Okay,
So,
but that's a
you know,
legacy too. But this is
Yeah.
a legacy. If you think about pop culture and
it's called
musicians
the,
and
what
artists,
do
we're
they
not just
call
always
it?
talking corporate.
They
There's
Yeah.
called it the latent surprise. That's what they called it. The latent surprise.
Huh.
as long
Yeah.
as it wasn't latex. Uh-oh.
No, not
See, now I'm really
latex.
going down that road.
Yeah.
But
surprise,
but-
like something that you watch it and you're like, what was
well,
that one?
I want
You
to
go
touch
back
on this.
again and then you go back again and so that's when you get this right. Oh, that's what it means.
Yeah. But so
Hmm.
musicians have a hard time with this, and I think businesses too. And I know from Nancy and I we've had to go through everything in print changing. I mean, we've done everything from, when she started the magazine in South Africa, not this magazine, but it was copy paste to, she started printing her own film. The typesettings, we went from non-computer to computer to film to digital, right? Which is a whole other thing,
Yeah.
and then the big step when we had our print magazine in this country, we were emailing the art to our printer, but we had dial-up because that's what we had. We didn't know any
Back
better
then.
internet was there yet. And it would take 3 days of sitting on dial-up and no one was allowed to phone the office because then everything would go down.
Oh,
So,
my
you know what I mean? So and then, we had overnighting. Do we overnight or do we email? Because it took the same amount of time. So,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden high speed internet started coming, cable. I mean, you've got to think about all
That
these
was
things.
awesome.
Then here comes social media and then podcasting, video making stuff. I mean, we're print people. I mean, I learned how to copy, like typeset, like with the inky
Yeah.
stuff and
Mhm.
glue. And that whole process is what I was trained as a kid to do to help her
Yes,
with her magazines.
yeah,
And
my
now
grandfather was a typesetter for the Herald Examiner.
it's,
I think I
it's
got
in our blood.
him.
But so we've gone through these changes, but we are still who we are. We still, no matter what, we may have a business magazine and a travel magazine. We're still Big Blend, no matter what, because we believe that everything's connected, right?
Yeah.
So then in businesses have to change and you can't buck the system. Like if people want to pay by credit cards and you decide to only be cash only, you're going to have a little bit of a harder time, right? And you can do incentives, but to say, oh, I'm only a cash only restaurant, it's going to be a little bit difficult when people are now just pushing a button on their phone even to pay you.
Yeah.
So there's these changes. And there's changes in direction that an author will do. They'll change pen names even over that. Musicians, I mean, you look at someone like David Bowie who did different styles. Prince did different styles. So your legacy I know it's reputation, but you also don't want your legacy to be so pigeonholed. So you
No.
have to have that backbone, right, of integrity of this is who you are, but you are still able to do many things. So
Well,
that's kind
if
of where I
you've
was
got
going
a
with that.
legacy as being an innovator,
Mm,
then you can't stand still. You know, when
Yeah.
I think of when you said David Bowie, I think
Mm.
of David Bowie as he was an innovator in
Yeah.
everything he did. He was not just his records, but as an artist, as a visual artist, as a performance artist. And so the one thing, you know, when I think of the legacy he left, I'd be interested in hearing what other people think, but when I think of someone like David Bowie, who was not just an artist, he was also, he had a huge, I would think, I don't know for sure, but I would think he had a number of people who worked for him.
Mm-hmm.
And his legacy with them might be different from the legacy that the public sees.
Oh,
Mm.
sure. Sure, because one side's going to go on the music
Yeah.
and what they see if they went to a performance, what they think of him as a person, whether or not they're correct, because they've never really met him, so they don't really know.
Yeah.
Then take in the factor of gossip columns and reading stories about musicians, that could give you a different outlook on specific people. I mean, there
Well,
was that era of trashing hotel rooms and all that seems
yeah,
to
I
have
think,
stopped.
and now
It's,
I think that is not as allowed. And a
yeah,
friend, two of my closest friends are in the movie industry, and they're, you know,
That's right.
they do a lot of work as part of the crew helping to put on the film. And what I hear from them is that the biggest stars are also really nice people and treat the crew beautifully. And the
Yeah.
ones that have a long history, like they have a long career, are people who are genuinely treating everyone quite nicely. And I'm not going to name names, but they've talked about, you know, that I've always said, who's the worst person that you've ever worked with? And they gave me the name of an actor who I haven't heard from in probably 20 years. And it was because they did things like
They're probably hanging out on Twitter.
Yeah, spitting. They spit on some of the crew if they weren't happy with them, and I mean, just
gross.
absolutely atrocious things.
That's
And then,
degrading. That's so gross.
yeah,
That makes
absolutely.
that makes the person less than a snake. That the
Isn't that?
spitter.
Yeah,
That
absolutely
is
gross.
like, I'm sorry, that puts you down on the lowest level you can go.
And then you hear about people like Morgan Freeman and
Meryl
Kevin
Streep is known
Costner, and
for
they
being.
said that they're just gentlemen. And Annette Bening, you know, like I've heard Kate Winslet, like they've worked with some like those actors, and they said that you couldn't meet nicer, kinder people, treated everyone really politely. They were always, you know, like they were very intense, they were professional, but they treated people with respect. And so the legacy that they will leave is not only were they consummate professionals and good at their craft, they were good people as well. And isn't that part of the legacy? I would think that as a leader, you leave.
Sure.
So you were able to run this business. And, you know, we hear of the Elon Musks and some of the top people in the world, and they might be really good at business, but are they really good at being human beings?
Yeah. And that's the thing, because I think you can make changes in your direction, but it's about your integrity, that core of who you are. And who you are is what's reflected in your business. Unless you're completely full of it, you know, you can't have multiple personalities. Well, some people can and do, which I always, that's a mental health discussion that's separate. But you know what I mean? I'm talking about somebody who's like really nice to their family and then gets to work and is mean, or vice versa. You know, that doesn't work. You've got it. You are who you are. So it's about developing yourself and being conscious. And you can't be a conscious leader if you're not conscious about who you are first.
When I started working in emotional intelligence, there's assessments that you can use. And so one of them, one of the first ones that came out, and it's highly validated, and it's gone through all of the different tests that an assessment has to go through to show that it actually tests what it's supposed to test. And I can remember administering it to a group of leaders when I was doing a workshop on emotional intelligence. And someone said, well, how do you want me to answer? Do you want me to answer as I would if I was in my personal life or on my business life? And I said, you should answer as one person.
Yeah.
There should not be this split personality. And they went, well, that's just ridiculous. I am different at work than I am at home. And I said, well, let's see if we can integrate so that you were one person. And it's like that just astounded me, because if you saw me perform and like, I've gotten to know the two of you just through doing the interviews. When I met you personally, you're exactly the same. You're just down to earth. You're easy to talk to. You both have wicked senses of humor. It's not like you turn it on for the.
Yeah, exactly. You get, but we just had a meeting with a friend who's been on our show since the beginning. We pretty much think it's like within months. So 15, 16 years, he's been on our show, and we finally met him a couple days ago.
Yeah, that was
and
fun.
We met in a park for a picnic. We had a good picnic, right? And so, and he's in the environment. You've probably been on a show with him, and Mike Dunmeyer, and we just recorded a show with him yesterday. We're like, it was so weird. It's like we all met and we'd done a Zoom, but he's always been audio most of the life, but we've always had each other's pictures and whatever. But it was so funny because we met and we just continued the same conversation, just got deep. You know what I mean? It was just like when we met you, it just, all right. It just nothing. It wasn't like we missed a beat, but it was really great to meet in person, obviously. But it was like, it wasn't any, I don't know. You just keep going. Steve Schneikert, our Hollywood historian, same thing. As we travel the country, finally get to meet people, and it's really cool. But then at the same time, you have this authentic connection. When you want to meet someone, you already have something in that way,
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's cool when people are just who they are. And obviously, we watch our language a little bit on podcasts sometimes.
Really?
And then, we might be a little naughtier. That's it. It should be how hot or cold you get. And that's about it.
And I think, I don't know if I've discussed this on one of the other shows, but I've had the conversation about what you want people to say about you. And I remember talking to one fellow, and he said, well, I want them to say that, I was fair, and he had all of these really positive things. And then and one of them was, I want to have my family say that I was a really good parent, that I was a great father. And I knew that this person was someone who worked 50 plus hours a week.
Wow.
And I said, so what would you believe your family would say about you? And then I asked him to go and talk to them and say, like, and ask questions that don't lead it. It's like, so do you think I'm a good father? Which is a very leading conversation.
That's almost a challenge.
Yeah. What do you think is most important to me? And their kids said work. It wasn't them. It wasn't the family. And he said, but everything I do for my family. I work these long hours for my family. So you have to, and so it's a hard, like life is not easy. You have to decide, okay, so if you only can have 5 hours a week with your family, if that's it, then make those 5 hours count. Well, I'm so tired because I've worked so hard. Don't bug me, get out of the room. I need to watch TV because I'm bagged. No. Say, okay, you're really important to me. Let's find something that's a lot of fun that maybe replenishes me. So maybe it's a game of mini golf, whatever. So if you're going to leave a legacy, you want to have a well-rounded legacy. And if you've only got a few hours to spend with your family, how do you want to spend them? And if you're telling them to quit bugging you because you're tired, is that really your good father image.
And put the phone down.
What's
Put
that?
the put the phone
Put the
down.
phone down.
The new
Yeah.
legacy for our younger people now is going to be their phone style.
Yeah. How fast you can text
I mean,
without
and
typos.
I think in
Yeah.
the future, if you think about it, people are going to be born with either a phone in their ear or on their hand. And it won't be a separate device. It'll be part of their body.
No, we're just going to be born with like a Bluetooth thing in our ear.
Yeah, because I
Ew.
mean so in and it's funny because one of the things about the older phones with an answering machine was so you didn't have to instantly answer every call, but you wouldn't lose a call. See, and that was a great invention, the answering machine. And I know phones have them, but for some reason, people don't seem to use them that much. They just feel this, I got to pick it up. It's almost like this is a baby, it's crying, do something.
But it's
Yeah.
not, I don't know, people don't seem to answer phones unless they have your phone number programmed into their phone. Because then you're
Well,
getting
yeah.
all the calls from other countries selling you stuff.
And
Right,
I know
Dagmar?
some people that if they're, you know, I have friends, if their child doesn't answer right away, they're upset because they believe that their child sees every call, and if it's not answered right away, it's a rejection of them. And you just
Ah,
get over yourself. If
That's
my
kind
child
of a
doesn't answer,
helicopter. That's helicopter
well,
parenting.
but that's
Yeah.
mechanical. It's a mechanical device, so you can't trust it forever all the
And
time.
you're supposed to have a life, other than the what scares me is like, I wonder about the heads of these social media companies when
Oh,
they go, their
gosh.
legacy is going to be that you got people addicted to ding ding dings like casino machines.
yeah.
Ooh, that sounds like a good part of a song.
Hey, it's
Used to be
and
ding,
you're
ding,
the, you're
ding,
the
went
one
the
goes
who's
the
the
trolley.
trolley.
musician, so
Yeah.
that you can write that, Lisa.
Yeah, ding, ding,
I-
ding, went the
And boy, will
casino.
I have a good title for it too. Think I may have to go back into punk rock, but but I think that's the thing is what are you building a company, like when you talk about companies, is it profit, profit, profit? That's an
Oh,
obvious thing. You want a business to be sustainable, be profitable, so it has money, room to grow and to pay people, etc. But are you
mm.
taking your profits and being really stupid about it and not giving back? I mean, I think we've got this huge argument in this country. And I want to go to all these big, oligarchs and billionaires and everything. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't make money, but are you sleeping? Maybe you are sleeping well because you can take whatever you want. You can, have your luxury linens, but
So
are you
what?
doing this with integrity? Are you making money with integrity? Does your soul feel good about it? Are you leaving a legacy of, I created this amazing company and maybe employ 1,000, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 people. I don't care how big it is, these giants. But are you
Mm.
treating your people well? Are you making them clock in and out every time they go to the bathroom? Oh, you took an extra minute to pee today. I mean, we're getting to this point of, I wonder about these huge corporations. How is their legacy in regards to how they're treating their employees?
Look
And there's
at
diversification coming in. There's a lot of positives,
mm,
but at the end of the day, with what should actually almost be illegal is not illegal, and it's wonky right now. But I wonder about when you set up to do your business, what was it that drove you to start this business? It's exciting to start.
look at some of the leaders. Okay. I'm going to go back to Richard Branson.
Oh, he's cool.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. See, that's your first thing. Okay. Now I say Richard Branson, you go, he's cool. Jeff Bezos.
No. See, but that's my personal
Okay.
opinion.
Okay. I know, but now based on news stories of what they do and how they
Well,
act
I
in
just think of
public.
his comment when he went up in space and spent, millions and millions and millions, and then thanked all of the people who spent money so he could go up in space. I mean, he was so tone deaf to how people are who are struggling, and he was kind of, from again, my opinion, bragging about how he could do whatever he wanted on the backs of people who did all of the sweat equity to get him there.
Tried to have a historic bridge dismantled so he could get his dumb yacht through
And
it.
he got rid of Amazon Smiles program for
I'm
nonprofits.
sorry, to me, he is lower than the lowest.
Yeah.
And
Well, okay, but I don't. Yeah.
South
Yeah.
African saying, I spit on your vital parts.
Okay, here we go. All right. All right. But that, my point was, leaving a legacy. Is that what you want? People, saying
That's
things
how
like
I feel
Nancy,
about, that's his
you know what I
legacy.
mean? Whereas Richard Branson's done so much for nonprofits, and, when he went for his first bank loan, he walked in, he was really young, I think, and he started off as a magazine person. He was a magazine guy, and I encourage people to read his biography, Losing My Virginity. It's really, it's awesome. He's done records, obviously, with Virgin and Airflight, everything. But he's always had that thing of going back. But, he walked into his bank barefoot in jeans to go get his first loan. He was, naive.
Funny.
But he did manage to get one. I don't know if it was the first time or the second time he learned, but he did get one to get started. And he always says that our industry, he takes his hat off, because it's hard work with deadlines and all of that. But he, I think he was the first publisher I could really resonate with, but he gives back. He does, he treats people as a team, and not like we're all here to grow together. What can we do? What is your best role here? He's amazing. So he is a business person with a legacy that I think I could say we can learn from.
What, as we've been talking, I kind of realized that not everyone cares that people have a good opinion of them. That's not what they
That's really
care about
true.
as far as their legacy.
Oh, that's true.
And so
When
when
they
I
think
think
they're
of the
so far
Bezos and
above.
the Musks and the people at that level, do they really care whether or not they're liked or disliked? That's not part of what they want as their legacy.
I think
But in the
Elon
same
Musk
regard,
is
what
too
I have to
young.
say, sorry, what's that, Nancy?
I think Elon Musk hasn't grown up mentally yet. On the one hand, he's got the scientific brain, but on the emotional and other side of his brain isn't at the same
He's
level.
neurodiverse, so he's autistic. So that explains part of it.
Yeah.
But I did watch an interview with him, and I could see that he actually, when he wanted to start, I think he wanted to start a space program. And he was so hurt that the scientists that he had so much respect for went, oh, hell no. And so I think that, I think even, I don't think he often gets how he insults people, because he might not make that connection.
Yeah.
But I do think that he actually cares. And as far as his legacy, well, I think that we might see it evolve. I'm hoping that we see it evolve.
I think he's so young, that I'm not just speaking young age-wise.
No, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
He is very immature.
That he's very immature, and I think that he spends so much time on this side of his brain that the other side will have a chance later to catch up, and eventually what we see now and what we see 10 years from now will be a totally different person. Possibly. Maybe 20 years.
Well, but that's the thing. But the evolving thing, that's a good way to close this, is that when you take that time to step back, like what Lee says, and write down what your legacy is. What do you care about in your business, your personal life, and who you are as an individual.
That have to get you there. And for people who haven't, just to close it off, I'd like to just remind people about the 5 tenets of trust, because they should be part of your legacy, and how you, like, what are the behaviors for each of them? So caring, commitment, consistency, competence, and communication. How do you show people you care?
Yeah.
How do you show consistency? Is what you're saying and what you're doing consistent? You know, are you competent? And if you're not competent as a leader, do you have people who have that competence who can do what you need to get done? You know, and communicate. Make sure that you're communicating and people know where you stand. Like all of those things together, depending on what you want as your legacy, you have to factor those 5 tenets to create a really solid legacy. As far as, well, of course, I think that. I'm the trust architect.
Well, but the thing is, you can change and evolve, like we're talking. That is, change can be made. I mean, when you talk about consistency, if you're consistently being a Bezos, you may want to change course, move your yacht a different direction, and
I like
don't
his
take down a
ex-wife,
bridge.
though. I really think she's a classy lady.
I think he is also in his own way evil. I don't know, but that's not what the show is about, to sit and gossip about people that have millions and billions of dollars, and you
honestly,
know. But yeah, no. But Lee, it is always a pleasure to have you on the show. Everyone, Lee's article is up on blendradioandtv.com. Just type in legacy and Lee. It's LEA. You can also go to thetrustarchitect.biz to keep up with Lee. She's always got some great resources on her website. And of course, get her 2 books, Trust Me, and the other one is Trusted. And she is here every third Thursday. And of course, when it comes to her also being a end-of-life doula, you can go to her website, souljourneydoula.com. I know we're going to be talking more about that in some of the upcoming months. Because it is quite fascinating and a very important role to be, you know, connected with someone on their last plane on this present earth of what we have. But anyway, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Lee. Keep up with us at bigblendradio.com.